I see you found our little hiding spot in the universe. Don't get too comfortable. This is a place where you will find those with an experience that's out of this world, or possibly deep within your life. I welcome you to the Oracles with James Tyson. Lean forward and listen. We will pull you into a supernatural journey with guests from around the world, each one experiencing some of the most extraordinary phenomena this wee planet has to offer. Now, here are the Oracles with James Tyson.
Thank you, Liam, and thank you, listener, for tuning into this episode of the Oracles with James Tyson. Today I'm introducing you to Miesha Johnston. She is a third-generation experiencer, having contact with 8 different types of extraterrestrial beings, including MiLabs and MK Ultra. And we're going to get a little bit deeper into MiLab and what MK Ultra and MK Delta is. And she shares these stories in a few of her books. One is Covert Abduction, Military Harassment, Surveillance, Interrogation, and Mind Control. Another one of her books that deals with the MK Ultra and mind control is They Weren't Butterflies, a Monarch Survivors story, which is kind of creepy. And we touch a bit on her experiences and her lost time growing up in the 60s. The other book we talk about, Galactic Genealogy, Planetary Origins. And we're going to dip in a little bit more about that and all the different species of alien beings. Well, I guess not all of them, because there's more than a few I found out. Different species. Well, it's an endless universe, so most likely an endless group of ETs out there. So please, we're going to come into this as believing that ETs exist. It's like when I talk about the ghost stuff. Yeah, ghosts exist. Now we'll move on. What are we going to do? What are we going to talk about? You can take this ride with us, but for us who've actually experienced UFOs or seen ETs, which I haven't done, but I've definitely seen UFOs and groups of them. We are going to talk about that too, and Ufo Tours, and where you can go out and see them for yourself. If you're a disbeliever, at least you'll get an understanding of what we're all talking about. We are going to touch little bits on bits and pieces of this. We're going to have Miesha back too, because basically there's way too much information that she has in various points that we want to drill down into. She herself had 2 8-month periods of missing time in the late 1960s. And in 1991, she founded the STAR Family Contactee Groups, and basically the first teen and children groups in the United States of people who have had contacts with extraterrestrials. Back in the 1990s, she was a director of U.F.O.C.C.I. Now, U.F.O.C.C.I, that is, what does that stand for? I had a brain fart there. UFO Contact Center International. And she did that for a couple of years. And she was also a member of Stephen Greer's group called the Center for the Study of Extraterrestrial Intelligence, or its acronym is C.S.E.T.I, C.S.E.T.I. And she was a member of C.S.E.T.I, Stephen Greer's group, back in the 90s. She lives in Las Vegas, Nevada, facilitates Starseed Awakening Experiencer groups, and 3 times a week on Zoom, and one in her home monthly in Las Vegas. She puts these little meetings together, and you can find out when those events happen. I think it's the last Friday of the month that usually happen on Zoom. You can find those on her website, starseedawakening.org. Again, starseedawakening.org. She's been on many radio and TV appearances since about 1999 in the U.S. and Europe, Russia, and even here in Canada. Spoken at many UFO conferences since 1994, and we're going to talk about a few of the conferences she's got coming up. She is a certified hypnotherapist specializing in ET experiencer regressions, past life regressions, PTSD and trauma recovery and release hypnosis, primarily targeting those who have had ET experiences. She offers galactic and multidimensional sessions, and we're going to talk about what a galactic and multidimensional session is. She is a trance channel who speaks in many galactic light languages, or what and if you follow the show about, we call it light language, which is very interesting. We're going to talk a little bit about that. She can interpret multidimensional realms and galactic intelligence. through her channeling and through her light language. Again, she teaches weekly these galactic light language classes, and she hosts a weekly radio show on KCOR Digital Radio. Again, KCOR Digital Radio. Just look them up, or just Google Starseed Awakening, or heck, go to starseedawakening.org, her website, and follow the links. She's the owner-operator of Vector 5 UFO Tours in Las Vegas, and has been leading the tours in Las Vegas and Hawaii for about 3 years with military-grade Generation 3 night vision goggles with high-powered lasers. Now, the high-powered lasers, we're not shooting down the UFOs. We use those to can communicate with them. And if you've heard me talk about this before with my friend Melinda Leslie, we go out on these tours. We look at groups of these, what look like satellites flying around, but satellites don't fly in groups. And we tag them, like flash them 3 times with a laser and wait and flash them another 3 times. And then they power up about 10 times brighter than normal, dim back down to normal brightness, and off they go. She does that. She does that in the Las Vegas area and out in Hawaii. So again, if you're following her online, you can see when she's going to be in Hawaii, and definitely pick her up. If you're out in Vegas, definitely got to do one of those tours. Follow her on her Facebook page, Miesha Johnston, sorry, with a T. Miesha is spelled Miesha, and Johnston is just Johnston. Miesha Johnston. Find her on Facebook and follow her along there. Again, we are going to talk about a lot of these experiences she's had in her life in regards to covert abduction, which is one of her books. Just kind of spooky. It's a covert military abductions and picking up people who have had experiences of the close encounters of the third kind. And when the military finds that out, they want to come and see a little bit of what you have found when you were on the spaceship, and try to basically say like a debriefing of what you ran into. On her website, she also has a number of questionnaires. If you think you've been abducted, if you think you're a starseed, for example, there's 25 questions there. We're going to go through those questions and see if I'm a starseed. And we're going to go through some of her experiences, obviously, on what has got her to where she is now in her life and what she thinks her path is going to be. So I want to introduce you to Miesha Johnston. Miesha, how are you today?
Hi, I'm very good, Jim. How are you doing today?
I am doing well here on a cool January day up in, like I say, in the lower left Canadian coast. How are you down in Las Vegas?
Well, it's only like 62 degrees today, so we have it a little chillier than usual, too.
Oh, 62. Gee, It's like 48 here.
But
I'll come down and visit you. And you can come up and visit me in the summer, and we'll trade houses.
Oh, yes.
In the introduction, I found it fascinating that you were a third-generation experiencer and having contact with 8 different types of extraterrestrials. Now, you say including MiLab and MK Ultra. Well, start off for my listener. What is a MiLab and what is an MK Ultra?
Okay, well, a MiLab is a military laboratory abduction. So it kind of stands for military reabduction. So they reabduct factions of our government, shadow government, let's say, and no matter where you're living, because this happens all over the world. But the shadow government will reabduct an experiencer after they've had contact, after they've been on board a ship or such, and they'll reabduct them. And it's kind of like a 3-level thing, in my opinion, of what my research and what I've found in my own experience and others, is there's your first group, a government group, a military faction, let's say, and they're interested in who's taking you and where are you going and what is the ship like and what's the propulsion of the ship. What abilities do you have? What abilities are you taught? What's the different programs, like hybrid programs and things like that. So they'll interrogate you, but not harm you. Then there's another level that will take you and they will drug you and they will interrogate you, and for the same reasons as the other level wants. But it's like if you don't get enough from that, if they don't get enough information, they'll pass you on down to another level, basically appears. And I do mean as in a dumb, deep underground base level. So that 7, 8 levels, maybe sometimes even more. So in the nether level, you're now again interrogated, and but they use drugs this time. Sometimes they do torture. Sometimes in this and the next level, they will rape you. They will torture, and they will. They'll show you some kind of horrific thing happening in front of you and say that's going to happen to you if you don't talk. Things like that. Then in the final level, then factions of ET groups and government laboratory looking people in lab coats and such, will interrogate you, torture you, give you drugs. And now the addition to that is now after the drugs, the ETs will come in and do mind melts with you and such as that. Now, these are things that have happened to me, so that's why I'm talking about them. Like, for instance, in my case, to explain it better, that I was given this yellow, thick substance that I was forced to drink. And by then, I'm already under some kind of a drug or hypnosis that, you're very docile and you'll do what they say. So I drink it, and then in walks this reptilian type of reptoid. And it looks into my eyes and does kind of a mind melt. What they're trying to find out for me specifically is a very kind, loving reptilian group that I'd had experience with throughout my life. They want to know where the ships are based that are here on the planet, that are in an underground basis. So they want to know that. So they will interrogate me, bring in the alien. The alien then does the mind melt, and then will literally, I can see these imagery as they ask the questions. The human military or laboratory, depending on which case it is, will ask. But they're always humans that are asking the questions, and then these answers come up in my head, and that creature, that reptilian raptor type, sucks them right out. It's like I see them come up and then they're gone. I see them gone. So it's like a mind melt that he's finding out the answers to the questions. So that's one of the methods there that they do to get information. So if they want to find out what technology that the ETs have, that's the way. That's 3 of the different methods they'll do, and depending upon the need to know. So, like in my opinion, every time I saw somebody who was in like the second and third levels of the MiLab situation, they would be lieutenant colonels or above. In the others, I might see a lower rank, a captain, or something like that. I would see regular military in black uniform sometimes, or a dark green uniform. So that's my experience and my definition for you of MiLab. It's kind of a long one, but
well, that's okay. It's fascinating. I've never had anyone break it down like that before. The MiLabs, like, it sounds like they're government people trying to get more information on the crafts themselves and the different beings, and they're using those who have been abducted to get that information.
Exactly.
But
so that's where the MK Ultra part of it comes in too. The mind control.
The MiLab. Are you saying that they also work together with some of the ETs?
Yes, they do. Absolutely, without a doubt. In my experience, I have seen 3 different types of reptilian. I've seen at least 2 types of grays. One's a gray beige, tall gray beige. The other one is more of a gray I guess you might call it mantis, but not like the mantis with the odd hands, but another type. And then some, like, say, more clone type, smaller grays. So that's just in my experience. So I'm sure a lot of people have seen others. And of course, I've seen a hybrid type as well.
Interesting. Okay, so they work together with us, and they're trying to get information on other ETs. So obviously,
exactly,
it's like, we have this kind of thing or this kind of picture in our head that all ETs know each other, and they all know exactly, one can fly another one's ship, or they know about each other's planets or whatever. But obviously they don't, or else they wouldn't be doing what they're doing with the governments.
Right. From what way I can understand, you have like a galactic federation and then you have the other side of it. Some of them, like, I'll give you for instance, some of them are probably off planet that are working with our government, the gray groups and such as that. Maybe some of the draconian races too, because I've also had a mind melt with what I would consider a draconian, because it looked different than even that reptoid that I was talking about. It looked more like a dragon. That's the only way I can explain it. It had more of a dragon, though it walked on two legs, and did a mind melt with me, and this one was to stop me from going any further in my research, to scare me so much that I would stop. And that's when Melinda Leslie and I were abducted together out of my home. So, yeah. So I mean, it's a whole long story, but I'm just kind of giving you some information about the MiLab thing right now. And at any time, if you want to go back to those experiences, I can certainly go into those, or I can do it now.
Sure. We'll go back to those. I think I'm going to end up having you come back anyway, and we'll drill down into these. And you mentioned Melinda Leslie. Melinda Leslie is my friend who does what you do, puts on like literally UFO tours. Melinda's up in Sedona, Arizona, and you can go out with her at night with the night vision and see them coming and going, actually from a portal up there. And you do the same thing down in Las Vegas.
Absolutely. I do mine through Airbnb Experience, and the reason I do it there is because, and the reason I do it at all is my galactics asked me to do this. They said, we find a way to reach people that you'd never have a chance to reach, that you'd never be able to talk to. Because on my tours, I do I speak and talk a lot with them. I kind of almost run an experiencer group while I'm there, especially if the people have interest in it, asking me questions, or they'd like to share their experiences and things like that. So I do the night vision tour, take them out to see UFOs, but then I also do galactic reading on them to help them find out what their galactic planet of origin is, and we talk throughout the whole evening. And so it's kind of a combination. And I get to meet people I never would meet. And it's like wonderful stretching their paradigm. I'll have some people come in and they're maybe believers, and maybe their spouse is there, and they said, I'm just coming along because I'm the spouse, right? And then by the end of the night, after they've seen the UFOs, after they've heard about my experiences or heard other people talk, their paradigm has shifted now. And I must say, I have a huge amount of Canadians come, and they're such a wonderful, open, people, and I just love it when I hear that we're Canadian. I say, yay, this is going to be a wonderful experience, and we always have great sightings, and we always have wonderful experiences.
Oh, that's very cool. Yeah, we always apologize. So it's
don't apologize.
It's the government. The government makes Canadians apologize for other things. It's a rule. It's on our passport. It's in.
Well, I love it. I love you Canadians. I would, yeah, very much so. I'm thrilled when I hear that somebody's a Canadian. I've never had in an absolute wonderful time with Canadians. I truly mean this. I'm not just blowing smoke up your skirt. It's very true.
How'd you know I was wearing a skirt? Damn it!
I just thought I'd say
It's
that.
a kilt. It's funny. We've got. I was approached yesterday for a documentary on people who have experienced abductees and things like that, but only for the city I'm in, Vancouver, British Columbia. So later today, I've got to get out there and bounce around and find some Canadians who've experienced this kind of thing that you've experienced, and which is very interesting. And if I had the ability to make my documentary and come down to Vegas, you'd be stuck with us at your Airbnb, I think. Because
I
to me
actually don't have an Airbnb. It's Airbnb Experience. So
I see.
We do experiences for it.
Oh,
but,
that's cool.
Yeah, we do experiences for it. So I don't have an Airbnb in my home. I did start out with an Airbnb in my home, and while I was waiting for the experiences to open up here in Las Vegas. So it's tours and things like that all over Vegas is experiences, just so you know.
Well, I may drop by and do it anyway because I'm going to be down in Virginia City, Nevada in May. So you're just down the road.
I'd love to have you come here, and we'll take you on a tour, and you can tour a night vision tour my style.
Oh, very cool.
At Melinda's.
I bought one of those little. It's sort of like a night vision thing. It was like $200 as opposed to the $2,500 ones. But we'll see. I can't zoom in on it. It's just like literally, it's a low light thing. So I'm all excited about using that, and it actually records what you're looking at.
Oh, we got a recorder. Yeah, I'm anxious to see how that works, because I've been wanting to get something like that or get the attachment for my phone. I have to do that because I think that's
what
really
I'm
great.
finding too is when I bought mine at the UFO Congress in Phoenix in September.
Oh, sure.
They've dropped since then. They're like, you can get them half the price that I paid for mine. So it's like they've really come down in price since then.
Oh, cool. We'll have to talk about where I can get that for the half price. I'd love that.
Yeah, it's a lot cheaper. And for those of you who've just tuned in or are interested or you're sitting at your desk at work and the boss isn't looking, go to starseedawakening.org. Again, that's Starseed Awakening, all one word, starseedawakening.org. And that is Miesha's website. And you can poke around and see the different things she's been up to. There is, there's questionnaires. If you're an experiencer, an abductee, you can go through the questionnaires and see how you connect. Or if you're a military abductee, Starseed questionnaire. There's a number of things on there. You also have your own. You have a blog. You have a.
In the blog, I put all of my upcoming events.
Yes.
Yes.
Which is important because you do have Ufo Con coming up, and actually coming up in, is it February?
It's February the 20th.
February 20th in San Francisco. So if you're in Northern California or you just want to bounce down there, if you're in the Pacific Northwest, it's a cheap flight down to San Francisco. And Melinda Leslie's going to be there too. So
yes, she is.
You get both of them tearing up the town. So that'll be a lot of fun there.
I'm going to be doing experiencer groups, large experiencer groups for people, and also be doing past life regression. Well, actually, I specialize in trauma release hypnosis therapy and PTSD. I work with a lot of people who have gone through trauma in their MiLab MK Ultra experiences, and then, of course, their ET contacts regressions as well.
Oh, that's fascinating. We'll get in a little bit more on that later, but let's get back to the MiLab MK Ultra. What is an MK Ultra?
Okay, well, the best way to explain an MK Ultra is MK Ultra is the German word for mind control. So that's where it came from. So the paperclip scientists that came over after the war that we did not win, but we supposedly told we won, they then interface them and put them into everywhere over into the United States and probably Canada. No, I mean, absolutely no doubt about Canada, because you have Dr. Cameron that did what I believe is part of my mind control programming. And he's well known for doing and working with the CIA, actually, and FBI, but I believe he's more like the CIA. And he's a Canadian doctor there and had a hospital and used people in the mind control programs and used them in the driving program, which is a program where they put people to sleep for days, weeks, or months, and program them to split. It also offers in splitting the altars, splintering themselves and making altars and things like that. They also program things into them. So a lot of the things that sometimes people remember in the MK Ultra life, that they had MK Ultra programming, might be inputted crap that's not even true, but along with the things that they horrifically have gone through with trauma-based mind control, and they add these things, then you look like an unbelievable nut case when you're talking. So in my experience, MK Ultra, I was born into an MK Ultra family. My father was MK Ultra. He was totally mind controlled, and he was my trauma-based torturer from the age of 3. I don't want to go a lot into this other than to say that they choose families, and in fact, some religion groups you'll find MK Ultra in. Some of the large religious groups you'll find the mind control and MK Ultra in. Some of the biggest ones that are controlling a lot of the Utah area, and others that are controlling the Vatican area, you'll find MK Ultra in. So, let's see. So let's see. I kind of got off there trying to give you that code, and so. But I find this all the time in my work with hypnosis. I find in these religions, there's this very satanic cult thing going on, and in most cases it's not about satanic cults, it's about mind control and trauma-based mind control to so they use the cult in order to even cause more trauma to people and such. So in my case, my father was a born-again pastor, let's say. And so he also was born into a family of Rosicrucians, and I'm not saying all Rosicrucians are bad, and I'm not saying all Masons are bad, but I am saying that if you get in the higher degrees of these, you will find some secret cult things going on, or splinter offs, let's say, such as black magic in the Rosicrucians. The alchemy and all these things, are wonderful things within these, let's say, religion groups, these secret organizations. But when they are used for the wrong things, then they become dangerous and very evil. So my father was trained from a very young age to be a magician and hypnotist, and so he used to hypnotize me and other siblings, and to think we were, like, for me, my book is called They Weren't Butterflies, and the reason it's called that is because my father would hypnotize me to think I was going to see butterflies, and when reality I was being taken to do ritual abuses and see ritual sacrifices and things like that.
Oh, wow.
So the MK Ultra, all of those things go in. So even they're all connected. In MiLabs, there's a lot of that in that. Of course, your MK Ultra, your ritual abuse is all connected. The targeting individuals have a large connection. They're targeted because of these things. So, let me think. Any others that are oh, of course, the Secret Space Program is another MK Ultra program. That is 20 and back, and in almost all the cases, when you get right down to these people and their experiences on Secret Space Program or Super Soldiers, another one that's all connected, you'll find that these people have been trauma-based mind controlled. So it is the umbrella that goes within all these other how shall I say, the umbrella of all these other programs and projects. And in my book, I do state all of the different CIA projects and such, and religion is in there, magic books and magic is in there, and things like that. So it's just a really short. People can read about it in my book a little bit and more in detail. Hopefully, I am making enough sense so you understand, that listeners understand.
I do. And now the book you're referring to is They Weren't Butterflies, Monarch Survivors Story.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And that's the one about being involved in one of these programs.
Yes.
And we mentioned Dr. Cameron really quickly. It's Donald Cameron, who died back in 1967, but was his experiments, involvement in child sexual abuse, and digging down into basically into the behavior analysis of these kids and more. They like you said, they would put people in comas and play certain sounds and loops, and saying that they were helping these kids, but there's stories about them that actually performing sex acts on high up politicians or something, and being used for blackmail. It's a horrific story. He was also involved in the Nuremberg trials.
That I did not know, but that makes sense.
He was in regards to a psychiatric evaluation of Rudolf Hess, and to do with diagnosis of amnesia and hysteria and things like that. So he was around. He's originally from Scotland. And he died in New York. So we're going to pretend he wasn't really Canadian. But he wasn't.
No, he was just one of the many mind controlled that were planted in different places all over the North Americas.
Yep. Yeah, and it's very, very interesting. If you get a chance to look up anything, there's some books about him you can pick up in regards to. There was back in the 80s or something. There was a big investigative television series or show about him up here, and is connecting him with the CIA. And there was a lady who wrote a book called The Sleep Room, and it was all to do with the story behind CIA brainwashing experiments in Canada. Ann Collins, that was her book. Very, very interesting.
So I want to mention that within that, what he found out and everything, the CIA took it and ran with it and used it, and have been continuing to use this driving program. And in 1967, they used that driving program on me. So it per se, it wasn't Cameron himself, but it was his program that they put into to place and used that driving program on probably thousands of people, unwittingly people. And in that driving program, like in 1967, a man came into the college. I was in the cafeteria. He walked in and he said, hey, does anybody want to make some money in a dream study? We're just going to be watching you dream and taking records and stuff, and you get paid for it. So I did, and it was just off campus, and it was a dark brown brickstone building I walked into, and they prepared me. The last thing I remember is going to sleep, and that was in January, and the next thing I remember is I wake up in 8 months later on a bus. And in between that time, I was married. My husband took me to Seattle, and I ended up also from Seattle into Bremerton and then on into Canada. So I'm not sure if there's a hospital over there that's still doing that driving program, but I went into the driving program in Pocatello, Idaho, and ended up in the driving program in more than likely. I'm still trying to piece everything together, but I know something about Victoria Island or something like that.
No,
so
Vancouver.
I'm still Vancouver.
Victoria is the capital of British Columbia on the south tip of Vancouver Island.
Okay, so that could be it. I don't know for sure. I haven't made it to Canada yet to find out. I really want to take a trip there to get some pieces together and see if I can recognize. I remember trips on the ferry and things like that. But so I was used in as a MK Ultra Monarch, and then Monarch are well, the best way to tell you, Monarch are men and women who are used in programming of alpha programming. So the programming is to make them slaves, have them photogenic memories. Beta programming is the sexual programming for rituals, sex, and as well as for pornography and child pornography and things like that. The beta programming, it also has the presidential models where we're party favors for events and parties. There's the Delta program, which is the assassination program, the Theta program, which is the psychic killer program, where remote viewing and can actually kill people. The Gamma programming, which is a programming that deceives actually deceives therapists. They're also some of the ones that are put into the UFO organizations to also do some of that. And then the final program that they put in us is the suicide program, so that we will self-mutilation or end up self-destruction. And so not a lot of people, especially in my era, made it out sane. Anyway, so that's just kind of gives you a little education about that subject. And if you have any questions.
Okay, yeah. Do I have any questions? You mentioned the MK or Delta. Is that MK Delta? Is it also known as MK Delta?
The Delta program is it can definitely be your Delta soldiers that will go out and, they take their they make them, I'm trying to think what it is. See, and when I get into these things and stuff, I'll have little blank spots just shoot in because I have programming that says do not talk.
Do not talk, yeah.
And the programming also says, at the risk of killing yourself, do not talk, But I've already gone past that, and I've healed that and everything. But those blocks still do come in. So, but at any rate, like a Delta soldier, that they're anonymous. I mean, they don't even have a family or anything like that. They're part of that programming. Of course, your Delta soldiers can be all sexes. They can be male and female.
Right.
And in some of my regressions with people who are been into these trauma situations, these Delta can have been, like, for instance, over in Vietnam and not even know it, and then have their hypnosis on them to forget everything. So hypnosis, drugs, torture, sex, sexual deviation, and horrific ritual abuse and things like that, all going together to program and make a MK Ultra Monarch survivor, or not a survivor, but a person who's gone through that.
We were talking to Miesha Johnston out of Las Vegas. She is fascinating. You're fascinating, Captain. An author and an experiencer of many, many interactions with ETs and all the periphery that follows that with the government interventions and things. And we've just been talking about everything from mind control, government intervention in people who who have had experience or come forward with experiences in things that Joe Sixpack and Jane Sixpack going to work every day usually don't experience. What do you think, or why do you think you and your family were, let's say, targeted? Is there something genetically, vibrationally that is different in your family?
Okay, there is something that they look for. They look for a person who can dissociate. So if you have somebody who has been through a horrific accident, say, and they're able to forget that whole thing, or they just naturally forget that whole thing and dissociate, this is the type of person that they're looking for. Now, genetically speaking, it was in my family. I can't 100% explain this, but somewhere along, I don't know that I'm any kind of a line, any kind of, what did they call it, Merovingian line or anything like that. I don't know. I do know that there was Knights Templar in my background, my family, and there were also German Nazis in the camps, in the concentration camps and things like that. So
were they? So they were camp guards or officials, or were you prisoners in a camp?
No. The Finners were. A Finner was known to be one of the officials there.
Oh, okay.
Maybe a scientist. I'm not positively sure what. It hasn't come back yet, that information, but did track down through the genealogies and the other things that Finner was one of the workers, I'll say.
One of the grunts, one of the people that worked in the prisoner.
Yeah, or he could have been a programmer, and I more than likely think that if we get down to it, it could have been that. So, that's, and then also there's a French line that is that Knights Templar, and then there's some different things so that's the only thing I can figure. I don't actually know the answer why my family, but my grandmother, first generation, my father, second generation, myself, third generation, were in the certainly the MK Ultra program, and my grandmother never did talk about ATs, but she did write a poem about flying above the roofs of the houses and stuff. So I don't know. I'm saying I would imagine she was an ET experiencer, but she was very talk about a Nazi. That was my grandma.
Oh, really?
Oh,
pretty
yeah.
Hardcore, yeah.
Hardcore.
Did she live in the U.S. or did she live back in the old country?
She lived in the U.S., and in fact, she lived on Asylum Lane, which is where the asylum that they took me to for my programming when I was a child. So,
okay.
Yeah. So, yes. She had to have a lot to do with it, but as I pieced back the parts and things of my memories in my mind to try to put it together, I understand and realize that she was definitely part of it, and everybody was terrified of her. Everybody, not just the family, but everybody, the neighbors, everybody. She was a Nazi. She looked like a Nazi. She was. And of course the Rosicrucian. So I'd say that is probably a spin-off, in the Rosicrucians. I've done some research on the Rosicrucians, and I see that to be a very spiritual based, shall we say, secret society or some secret group. But my grandmother even spawned my dad's half-brother, and he ended up being a cult leader in San Francisco, and it was a CIA cult too. So anyway, it's it was put in place by the CIA. So there's a lot of connections that go there, a lot.
That's bizarre. Now, I'm going to go back a little bit because I'm picturing my listener waving their hand in the air, going, "Oh, go back, go back."
Okay.
What did you mean by? And we're talking about the Second World War, that we thought we won, but we didn't.
Oh, well, we did not win the German. We did not win against the German. They could have gotten us so early. In a way, I think it was a deal that was made that, okay, we'll say that you won, and then we'll bring all of our paperclip scientists over to your country and to North America. So that means it's also Canada, and we'll put them in the places, and then we'll do our mind control and our programming and run your world. I wouldn't run your, not your world, but run your North America, run your government and things like that. So Verda von Braun and all of Ness and all the different ones that are in our space, our NASA who are at the top of all of these? Germans. And I'm not saying Germans are bad. I'm saying the particular paperclip Nazis that came over that were from the camps and had learned everything they could there, and then were bringing it over so that together the factions that were running, let's say, the North Americas, would now work with the factions of the mind control group, the Nazis and such, and also along with the space, along with all of the different kinds of scientists that would come over and be part and work together. For what reason, I'm not sure, but that's what I feel. That's what I feel.
Oh, okay. It's kind of interesting because I grew up in a household where my father was a gunner in a B-25 during the Second World War, and he bombed France, basically. So I used to always say that he actually fought against the French. But he bombed the V-1 and V-2 bases there. So I grew up with a kind of a hands-on history of the Second World War. And I just can't see how the Germans won, because with so many captured, so many dead, and then the Russians coming in and taking probably, at least a minimum of a third of all that technology back to Russia. It wasn't like the Allies came out completely on top.
No.
So to have a very small percentage of the engineers spread out, not including the ones who went to South America. And in my understanding too, and this is another one that's kind of out there in the woo-woo side, but a few years ago we remember off air we were talking about how ETs had stepped in and into a lot of the psychics.
Right.
We actually found that we determined from a number of psychics all around the same time that the Hitler actually died in the early 70s in a small town in South America.
South America, yes.
Yeah. So, and of course, they wouldn't tell the beings that were passing on that information wouldn't tell us where, because it would turn that town and his grave into a monument of him. Right. So he'll never be identified, or that his grave will never be identified. But there's enough of them spread around. There is a core group of guys who were into who the U.S. Took to help with their missile experiments in their rocket ships and even jet aircraft. Same with Canada. I think there was a couple that was used in a thing called the Avro Arrow back in the 1950s, which was the first delta-winged fighter jet that would have been the premier fighter of all air forces at the time, post Second World War. There was some German scientists or engineers on that, and they left after Canada got told not to build this thing anymore, and they went down and worked at NASA. And eventually put a man on the moon about 7 years later. But these guys were a very small group, and a good part of them weren't Nazis.
Well, I just know that in the mind control program, um, there was several names that come up, brown, green, but they're not. And oh gosh, what's his name now? Let me look in my book and I can tell you what his name is. All of a sudden I can't think of his name, but he was one of the paperclip that came over here. But perhaps in some of the things, yes, they were here for good reason, but in the mind control program, it was not. They brought their techniques of torture and mind control, and the trauma-based mind control, torture, drugs, and the different methods, and they brought that over, and that was Mingala. There, and finally came in my head. Mingala, Dr. Mingala, Joseph Mingala. Yeah. So I'm talking and referring to his group. Also, Wernher von Braun said several things that went to the fact that he was warning people. Now, he could have definitely been the good guys that came over, but he was warning people about what's happening and about the false flags and the different things like that before on his deathbed. And so there's a whole lot more than, and for us who are in the MK Ultra program, we just do not believe, we do believe that it was some kind of an agreement that was made, and the paperclip soldiers, the scientists that came over were not for our highest good.
Okay.
So, but I'm sure there were some that were here that helped, such as Wernher von Braun, and I'm sure that some of those scientists were forced to do what they were forced to do in the concentration camps or different places. They were forced to do it, and so when they got an opportunity to come over here, and not be prisoners, basically, they would probably jump at that chance. So, but yeah, that's my opinion because of what I've learned in my experience and in my research. So that doesn't necessarily have to go for everybody's opinion.
It's funny the way you said that. This is my opinion based on my what you've done. When I, as a member of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, I go to court, and there's a few things that I was an expert in, and you're deemed experts by the court. You can't come out. You never tell somebody, like, I'm an expert. No, you have to be. It's an agreed fact. So the defense and the Crown and the judge get together and say, okay, based on this person's experience and education and knowledge and blah blah blah, he's an expert in this. So the way you say that is, it's kind of like, I only say this because of my experience and my research, and think, well, you become an expert because you know a little bit more about this than the average person. Therefore, you're someone of authority to listen to and stuff like this. Now, you are a certified hypnotherapist. I am. You specialize in ET experiencer regressions, past life regression. PTSD, and as you said, PTSD and trauma recovery and release hypnosis. And you also offer galactic multidimensional sessions. What the heck is that? Okay,
well, galactic, I believe, again, this is all in my experience and such, it's not only did I have an MK Ultra situation going on, but I also had ET contact, and in my opinion, the ETs are what helped me to survive. So as a child, I started communicating with them. At 3 years old was my first contact, and then I had other types of contact. So my first one was, I'll just tell you who it was. Okay, so and the reason why I'm doing this is I'm explaining where that comes in for the galactic. Okay, so was a BG, and they were little furry guys, and they were in little hoods, and they were very short, and they were the same size as me at 3 years old, and they communicated telepathically and through a language that was not understood by most, but I could understand them. And that went on for several years. And when I was an adult and I went to Star Wars and I saw the Ewoks, I went,
Ewok, yeah.
wow, that's what it looks like. It's the Ewoks. Very, very similar type of race. So I think Lucas had some ideas about some things that were true. And then, of course, I had connection with a white, tall gray. I mean, but not a gray. It had features similar to a gray, but it was very tall, white, almost a pearlized opalescent color to him. And he was with me throughout my whole life, including my hybrid program, which hopefully I'm sure you already know what hybrid program is. Yeah, so he was through my whole life. But from time to time, they would come and console me and help me going through my life of the programming and the mind control. And they would be my galactic family that would come and visit me and let me know that they loved me and that I'm not alone and that this will pass and to help me survive. And so they were with me. Then during a lot of the MiLab and MK Ultra things that happened to me, then another group came in, and this was a very positive reptilian group that were there to protect me from the negative reptilians that I was being abducted by and taken to MiLab to underground bases. So, and then in between that, I had other slightly different races. One that had looked like a gray, but then had kind of coarse skin, almost, well, not coarse, velvety skin, but yet with a raised kind of scales, and then hybrid children that were talked to me and things. So I had all of this. So the reason why I wanted to explain to you that, let me get back to the question at hand, which is, I lost. What was it?
I'm not going to tell you. No, it was to do with it was a kind of a semi broad question, so it's probably why we started swimming. You're basically a certified hypnotherapist.
Oh, the galactic language. Yes, the galactic connection, the interfacing. Yes. So from a child, I was talking and interfacing and speaking galactic language with these beings that would visit me. And so it was, as an adult, I started it up again because one night I woke up and there was this little being in my room, and I knew it was one of my hybrids that I'd seen in other experiences, and he's speaking a language. Well, I woke up speaking this language, and then he spoke it, then I spoke it, and that was to remind me that it is now time to wake up to the next part of your mission, which is the galactic connection of the galactic light language and connecting people to their galactic families and such. So these galactic light language sessions I do are, as I'm a medium for speaking through having a galactic speak through me. I am not a trance medium, but I am I step aside. So I step aside and turn off my conscious mind so the subconscious can communicate through the subconscious, and then they'll often translate. So when someone wants to know about what their lineage is off planet, because as the beings told me when they wanted me to do this, is they said, everyone in your planet your people are always wondering where their genealogy is from, what their connection to their world is. Well, what's more important than a genealogy on Earth is the genealogy out in space, in the galactic. So I will work with people to help them find out where they're from, have their galactic speak through me, and often get their mission of what they're supposed to do. A lot of time, they just need that reminder from the galactic of what their mission is, and they start on their path and start finding what they're supposed to be doing. I also do the readings for people because I have developed with a dear friend of mine, Tana Newberry, developed these cards that are experiencer cards, and I do the oracle cards readings for the people as well to give them more information.
What are experiencer cards?
Well, they're something you've never seen unless you've gotten our deck, and it is for, they have things such as different types of galactic groups. I'm actually working on a new deck right now that has not only the ET experience and the different types of ETs, but also the MiLab, the MK Ultra, the MiLab, the government, the secret space program, Monarch. All of those are part of the, and these cards are. So they're oracle cards with this information on them. Like, for instance, one might say MiLab, another one says hybrid children, another one says starseed connections, contacts, and then also hybrid children, government hybrid children, which they have their own hybrid program, the SSP Nazis, your special, just to give you a example. And within these cards, they're oracle cards. And so when a card like, I do a reading for you or something like that, would be the easiest way to do it. But I then have the information come through about their story. So when I'm pulling out an experiencer's cards, we talk maybe about their childhood. A childhood card comes up, and then we talk about maybe the group encounter with a family, a particular Orion group that came in, different things like that. So that as I lay out the cards, the whole story unfolds.
Okay. Gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like any oracle reading, just about ET and MK Ultra, MiLab, and all of that.
Just like any oracle reading, yeah. Except about all this other interesting stuff. Now, you used to be, or I shouldn't say, yeah, I guess it's a past tense. You were director of U.F.O.C.C.I. Back in the day. What was U.F.O.C.C.I.? UFO
Contact Center International, and back then, and that was in the very early 90s. Actually, I walked into it in 1990, and then in 91, I was the director for the Las Vegas chapter. And it since has closed, so that organization is not running anymore. But it was one of the very first ones that was talking about our contact, not just UFO sightings, but actual contact that people were having.
Oh, okay.
And from that, I'm sorry?
Sorry, and I was going to say you went on from there and you got involved with Stephen Greer's organization?
Oh, yeah.
At the same time, yeah.
It was just about the same time, yeah. I was his working group here in Las Vegas, and that's where the whole idea about you can vector in ships, and it's like CE5 means the conscious contact, and so he taught us and showed us how to do that. And so within my night vision tours that I have here in Las Vegas, I use those concepts.
So when you say CE5, that's close encounter 5 of the fifth kind?
Of the fifth kind, yes.
Yeah, and that's conscious.
But it's not close encounters, it's conscious contact. So it's conscious ET contact of the fifth kind, which fifth meaning that it's not like we're at sleep and everything. We're consciously inviting them to come in, to come to us.
Okay. And how do you do that?
Well, there's several methods. So it depends on the group that I'm with, but some I would meditate. We'd meditate and we'd send our kind of like a remote viewing, and we send our consciousness up to space, and I'd have people kind of visualize, visualize or pretend, whichever they needed to do in their belief system, and to go to family, to go to planets, to go on ships, to see ships and things like that. And then, of course, before that, we put a protective energy around us so that we're only contacting those from higher realms, higher dimensions. And then once that's done, we bring that energy back down, and we always have sightings. And then sometimes people such as myself will speak galactic language. They'll communicate through us. Somebody might see them, imagery. They may feel their senses. They may feel a touch on their cheek, things like that. So, and then at the same time, we have sightings of UFOs.
Oh, see, and that's what I'm always curious about those two, because I didn't do the Vector 5 tour that you have in Vegas yet, but I went out in Melinda Leslie's, and with the high gen 3 night vision goggles and things like that, and it was adorable because I was there with a group of Japanese tourists, all women, who, when the groups of these UFOs would fly over, they got giddy, and it was funny. The lasers were pointing up in the sky. Look, oh my God! Well, I can imagine what they were saying, but it was all in Japanese. But it was really good energy. It was like a blast. And poor Melinda trying to, it was like herding cats. You used to see her up there trying to get everybody to calm down. It was kind of fun. But
it's exciting. Yes.
When you're actually doing a connect, well, the CE5 connection, the conscious connection with a craft, or calling in a craft. The ones that we saw, the best way for me to describe them to the listener was if you saw a satellite traveling through the sky. Okay, we've all probably seen a satellite, most of us. Now, imagine them traveling in groups, which satellites can't. They do not launch satellites to travel in groups.
No.
It's just not what they do. And they also don't stop and turn right angles and go back and up and down and things.
And power up, yeah.
Yeah, and then again, flashing the little handheld laser at them, and then all of a sudden they power up and they're 10 times brighter than normal, and then coming back down again. Would you say, in your experience, those are all operated by the same ET group?
Absolutely not. Not in my opinion.
Okay.
No, because they act, when you have these sightings, and they act in different reaction, different ways. Some may power up, and some you can flash them for 100 times and they're not going to power up. Or others might stop and disappear like, you saw us, now we're out, we're gone. So some might move to identify themselves, and others might just say, "Oh no, you're not. You don't see us." To me, that's why don't they all act the same? Why don't they all react the same? If they don't react the same, then they must be from different groups, galactic groups, in my opinion.
Okay.
Different ETs groups.
Or they just have different attitudes, maybe.
It's a possibility, but I don't think
humans.
that it's just one type, just like I don't think that it's just one type of ET that is contacting / abducting people.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because they all look the same, but I'm looking at them from like 13, 14 miles away, and they're just dots. If you got up to it, maybe one's a cigar shape and the other one's a disc shape, or whatever the classic UFO kind of shapes are.
Yeah, sometimes we do see structure. Occasionally. Not very often, but occasionally.
Well, I think I was talking to Melinda at UFO Congress in Phoenix, and she was at 1,100 and some outings, and only one night out of 1,180 some nights they were out looking, that it was only one night they didn't get anything, and about 30 to 35 of those, I can't remember the exact number, but it was in the mid low 30s, were the big V-shaped full-on structures.
Yes.
And she said those are rare, but they happen. It's unfortunate they don't happen all the time, but they have seen them. In fact, there was a group getting ready in the parking lot where she meets everybody before they drive out to the kind of out-of-town location where get away from the lights of the town and watch them. They were in the parking lot, and one of these big V-shaped things kind of followed them back to where they were. It was like, holy crap, that was interesting.
Yeah.
So, but I guess, I'm wondering too, you might have an answer for this, but it depends on who's out there looking.
Oh, absolutely. I have been, because I also do tours for the locals here for my group, my Starseed Experiencer group that I have here. So we'll go out, and we always do the CE5 method when we're together. Now, when I'm with tourists that are coming in from Las Vegas, I can't tell you that we do vector 5. We vector them in like I would with the CE5. Vector and CE5 is about the same thing. It's just my terminology for it. So, but you can't do that with most people. Most people are going to get freaked out by that. You chanting or toning or meditations and things like that. So most people, they just come and they want to experience the sightings and such.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I did. I thought, well, okay, people keep saying they see UFOs. I'm going to go see if I can see one. And I was amazed at them traveling in groups of 3 and 4. And, and for the listener, when we say powering up, it's basically you're looking at one flying and all of a sudden it's 10 times brighter. And it may stop and do that, or it may just keep going and do that. And Melinda said she had a group out once. It was a number of couples, and they were, and one of the guys says, "Do you notice they kind of down kind of south there over top of that whatever geological feature, they kind of just disappear?" And she said, "Yeah." And he says, "Yeah, there's a portal." And she said, "How do you know that?" And they said, "Well, we're all from NASA. We just thought we'd come up here and show our wives UFOs." And she went, "What?" So she pointed out the area where this portal was, and sure enough, that's kind of where these would disappear. And I just thought maybe they're just out of sight at that point. But I'm watching these two flying towards what the portal is, and as they're getting close, one comes out of the portal, and disappears. And one of the two that were coming towards it powers up and dims, and the one coming out powered up and dimmed. So it was like they were flashing their high beams at each other.
Yeah, it is,
as they were passing. One's coming out of the portal, and the other two are going into the portal. It was fantastic. I really recommend anytime you can get out. And for people, in the Pacific Northwest here, we can get down to Las Vegas relatively inexpensively. Check out starseedawakening.org. That is where you're going to find Miesha's website. On her blog, it'll have an idea of her Vector 5 tours in the Las Vegas area. With a little bit of a video about that. You've got some other things coming out. You do a Starseed Awakening Experiencer group, third Friday of every month.
Locally.
Are you going up to the Sacred Connection Sedona retreat?
Yes. Sacred. Yeah, I will be speaking there. I'm going to be doing group regression like I did last year, and then I'm doing
past life.
Experiencers. Those, yes, but the past life regression is the group regression, and then I'm also doing groups for the people support groups so people can talk and share and things like that. Those are very popular, and then a tour, night vision tours as well. And that is it is a sold out. It's already sold out. So I don't really advertise it too much because it is completely sold out already. Their tickets are gone.
Those things kind of sell out a year in advance. As soon as they come out.
Yes.
You're also going to be in...
with an amazing psychic, Linda Glendale. She's the one that puts them on.
Yes, I have to talk to Linda. I have to pull Linda kicking and screaming on here one day.
Oh, you should. She's such a fun interview. Yeah, I've had her on my radio show.
Now, and coming up in April in Las Vegas, you have the International Symposium of Quantum Consciousness and Healing. Excuse me, my voice was going there for a second. And you've got George Norrie and a lot of other people there. And so if you go, again, this is all on Miesha's blog at Starseed Awakening, and you go down and kind of flip through what she's going to be at and what she's doing. And I'm going to recap these at the end of the show. So if you are interested and you're close, you can go down and see check out these and lots of really cool things.
I'm going to be doing a group regression there as well. It's the first time I've ever done one in Las Vegas, so this will be interesting. And then I'm also presenting there. I have a workshop that I'm going to be talking about everything from my life and the MK Ultra all the way to the change in my mission later on in life, in the last 20 years or so, with the groups and the galactic genealogy and all of that.
Oh, very cool. And of course, you've got coming up in February, UFO Con 2020. And it's in San Francisco at the Holiday Inn Airport in San Francisco. And you're going to be there with a lot of special guests, and you'll be speaking at that. And yeah, it's fun. And Melinda Leslie's going to be there. So we get both of you together in one location. It's like a nuclear fission about to happen. You could probably
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, you add Solaris Blue Raven, Geraldine Orozco, and Lorian Fenton, Barbara Lindsay. You add that dynamics as well to it. We have a great time.
And and just to get everybody out there so you understand too, I want to definitely pass on. You have your own radio show at www.kcorradio.com, and you're at 12 p.m. Pacific on Saturdays. It's 3 p.m. Eastern. KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Right.
And is that where Sean Whittington is too?
I don't know if Sean is. I don't know who Sean is.
Oh, Sean,
I know that they
Sean
have
Whittington.
so many shows.
Yeah, he's been on a couple of times. He clears. It's not quite an exorcist. He can see what he calls demons. His wife, bless her, can see ghosts. So when you have something going on in your house, they both show up.
Yes, he is. Vegas Supernatural.
Yeah, that's him. Yeah, he's very, very interesting. He's been on the show a couple of times, and I bopped into his show a couple of times too. He's quite fascinating. He and I have the discussion all the time, the difference between a demon and an elemental being. One person's demon could be another person's elemental. It depends, how you look at it. It'd just be a crappy little elemental that's sucking the energy out of the house and the people in there. But he can see them, and he gets them out screaming. It's a lot of fun. He's a good guy to talk to. But again, Starseed Awakening, just starseedawakening.org and check out everything that Miesha is up to. And it's fascinating. You've done a lot. Like I say, we could dig down into the experiences you've had and the things that you do, and you continue to bring in information from people who experience things. You could basically come on here once a month, and we can learn something new about who you are and what you do and things like that. Now, you've also I've got to mention the books. Covert Abduction, Military Harassment, Surveillance, Interrogation, and Mind Control. They Weren't Butterflies, a Monarch survival story, and we touched a little bit about that and the other mind control aspects of various groups on this planet, and Galactic Genealogy, Planetary Origins. Now, that is one and I want to talk to you about. Okay. I want to talk to you about it.
It is my most near and dear project and mission that I'm on right now. So, yes, I'd love to.
Tell us, just really quickly, not really quickly, slowly and calmly, what is that about? It's obviously, by just reading the title, kind of a genealogy of planetary origins, but how the heck do you get into it, and how do you know about stuff like that?
All right. Well, some years ago, my galactics, through the galactic language and also some automatic writing, they asked me to put together some of the well-known planets that we know of and that people have talked about their experience with, like, to name a few, the Lyrian and Pleiadian and Orions and Sirians and Venetians and all of that, and to put together this chart. And so for quite some time, I used the chart and would do the readings. And I didn't really have a lot of knowledge about them. So the Galactics came to me and said, now you need to get people connected to what these people are like. What are the characteristics of a race, the races that live in Lyria? what are the characteristics of races that live in Syrian, and who are they, and what do they look like, and all of these things. So with all the very different, because one time we talked about this off air, but during my galactic session one time, and I would say these were training sessions that they were doing with me, I wanted to make sure that I wasn't doing any channeling of a demon, a demonic energy. So I said, I need to know who you are, what your name is, and where you're from. Well, they did not give me where they're from, because the names that we have are not the names that they have. So that was a different thing. But they'd come in almost a line and a procession to tell me their names and show me in my mind's eye, and I psychically show me what they look like. And so they said it's so important that people know that there are many races out here in the galactic living in peace and harmony, and it's time for Earth to get on the bandwagon and do this and stop being prejudiced of you're so prejudiced of just colors. Can you imagine if someone had three eyes, So basically what they were trying to explain to me, that people, though they may have the humanoid and races, but they look different. They all have different features in their face and their eyes and things like that. And for us to stop being so prejudiced. So we cannot join the galactic community until we can live in peace and harmony here. So they wanted people to know and connect with their galactic family. The more people who connect with their galactic to realize who they really are, because they said, your people are so interested in what their genealogy is all over your Earth, but what's more important is their genealogy before they came to Earth, or parallel existences, let's say, because it's really not a past and present. Once you get off this planet, it's parallel. So that's why they had me put together the chart and then the book. And the book is the color book about all the different groups of let's say, for instance, in the Syrians alone, it's a water race. It's where the dolphins or the whales came from. The mermaids and the mermen also came from there. So they came from there in the respect that genetics were put on our planet from these planets and races. I heard something there. And then along with that, there's amphibians, there's reptilian race, there's all different colors of races, and I do mean colors. Some of them are in pinks and blues and greens, and of course you have your black and your Asians, and all of the races are in the different planetary groups and alone in Syrian. So in the book, I try to give people an idea that if you can see that there is a black race and an Asian race and a maybe an Irish race, then you can understand that it's all the races that have genetically come onto this planet are out there in other planets, and that we're connected to them, that they are our family. We are they are our ancestors. We are their children.
Oh, okay. I was curious about that too, at the number of races we have here on Earth, and whether or not we all kind of sprouted from the same group of people out in North Africa 70,000 years ago, or we are a mix of a number of different races that kind of showed up here and planted the seeds.
Without a doubt. Our history shows that. We have the Sumerians and the Egyptians and the Aztecs and all the different, even in the Vikings, and all the different races that have come about that have different appearances and such as that. I believe that it's off-planet genetics that have been introduced. And of course, the drawings and the carvings and things like that show that. So when you have a carving of a humanoid with a dog face or a lion head, a lion is a lyran. Those are lyrans. Lyrans are the feline beings. And and the dogs can be anywhere from the Iargans to Tassadians and such as that. So yes, these genetics have come from all over.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And when you talk about the different races and the majority of them, and then people say, well, we should have disclosure. Why isn't the government telling us that there are ETs out there? And well, you get back to it, it's like our prejudice. You get a bunch of people in some places on Earth, well, in your country, building bunkers in their backyard and arming themselves in the event of a bunch of Syrian children, refugees showing up or something. You can imagine if all of a sudden, oh yeah, we have these people who have the heads of lions and tails and 9-foot-tall reptilians. Mm-hmm. Yeah, those guys are going to freak.
Yeah, they are. They are.
So there are people out there saying, "Oh, we need disclosure. We need disclosure. We're ready for it. We're ready for it." Well, yeah, maybe they are. The ones that are yelling up and down for it are ready for disclosure. But the rest of the planet who kind of doesn't pay attention to, the Travel Channel and a couple of paranormal TV shows, or has been following this along, and you're in a village somewhere on the other side of the planet, and all of a sudden you open the newspaper one day and say, these giant reptilians came down and they want to talk to us. Well, your whole life is gone for a poop.
Absolutely.
Your belief system's thrown out the window, and
right.
You don't know what to do. So, and,
yes.
and because
race
we're human,
is not ready.
No, race, because we're human, the first thing we want to do is either break it or kill it or grab it. And, because we perceive in some cases that we are the highest beings in the universe, that we've got to capture one of these things and see how it works. Mm-hmm. When our arrogance, basically what it is arrogance. Like, we are not the highest vibrating beings in the universe, and we shouldn't walk around with our chest out that big, because
that's right.
We're going to get slapped. Quantum
physics is proving that all the time. And the whole entanglement of the quantum physics is proving that we are not alone, and we are not the top of the ladder for sure.
Yeah, I interviewed a guy a couple of years ago, a guy named Steve Long, a laborer, probably I think 9th grade education, maybe 10th grade education, better with his hands than being book read, didn't like reading books. And he was working on a roof, and it had a electrical box on it, and there was a lightning strike in the box, and there was, basically he jumped from one roof, the two buildings were separated about 2 or 3 feet. He just jumped, or not even 2 feet, maybe 1 foot. He jumped from one building to the other, and there was an electrical charge trapped between the two buildings, and as soon as he jumped over top of it, it zapped him. Mm-hmm. So basically he was hit by lightning and should have died. He didn't die, but when he got out of the hospital, he devoured every book that he could get his hands on, and he has an understanding of physics that is contrary to what physicists would learn in school.
Interesting.
His understanding of gravitational, the use of gravity to create power, is completely out of this world.
Wow.
And it was downloaded into him. Mm-hmm. And the hard part is, he's your normal guy with this information, and it's hard to articulate what he has. And he gets frustrated now because other people. It's like a friend of mine growing up is a genius still, but was a genius as a kid. We were like maybe 11, 12 years old. He could look at a comic book. You'd show it to him for a second. You'd shut the comic book, the 2 pages, and he would tell you what everybody says in the comic book. It was his joke. He had a photographic memory, and he would flip through books and read them. But he's a walking, talking genius. He gets frustrated. As he got old, he got frustrated talking to people who weren't geniuses. Because he just would, and he was so cold, he'd look at you and say, I no longer want to talk to you. You don't understand. And he'd turn around and walk away, and you're going, George, what? He goes, yeah, you just don't understand. There's no reason for me to talk to you anymore. Okay. Off you go then. But that's what this guy's like. He can't articulate what he has to physicists. He gets too frustrated with them because their physics is based on what they've been taught and what they've experimented with at this point in and the perceptions and the theories that haven't been tested. He says that, well, if a lot of them aren't going to work because of A, B, and C, and they're looking at him and said, "Oh, well, that's wrong." And he just looks at him and says, "No, don't tell me I'm wrong." Because what I've been through, I shouldn't be alive. 2, I know way more stuff than I should know, and it's all fact. So if this 75% is 100% fact and can be proven, this 25% that I'm trying to tell you is completely outside of our wheelhouse. But if this is true and this is what happened to me, then this has to be true. Therefore, you should believe it. And they just say, "No, you're coming up with theories that don't exist." So every so often we get somebody on this planet who has been downloaded with some information that is most likely here to help us, like a seed planted. It's unfortunate that sometimes these seeds have to be planted 1,000 times. Exactly the same seeds are planted 1,000 times because in this polluted environment we are in, and polluted, but I mean the way humans have learned. Only 1 or 2 of these are going to sprout. So Steve's information may never come to fruition. Someone may never believe him, and he dies with that information. And therefore another person somewhere else on the planet has been given the same info.
Absolutely. Yes.
So it's interesting with the amount of influence we have from other or off-planet civilizations. They are trying to help us to the most, the most part. It's just that we're not paying attention.
Absolutely, they are. They would love us to join the galactic community, but we are babies in the crib now. And so the people I believe that are like this gentleman that you were talking about, that are getting downloads, that are speaking, translating, going to be ambassadors when the time of great change comes, is what they tell me. The people that are connecting and all of the star seeds that are coming in to help wake up, at least tip the scale so that we can have disclosure. But we can't have disclosure until that's done. So there is an amazing, in the last couple of years, advancement of people and in numbers that are waking up. And not only just waking up and be curious, but head on in and said, okay, what am I supposed to do? What's my part in this? And they're waking up because I believe that so many of us came from elsewhere to, were born on this planet to assist this planet in its consciousness and awakening before it's too late.
Yeah. It's a before it's too late kind of thing. It's hard. We've been I didn't understand any of the things that I used to experience as a kid until 2012. It was late November 2012. And I found myself at a psychic who then has me off on this path now. And that psychic had me understand a lot of the stuff that I experienced, pointed out a lot of things that I experienced as a child that I never told anybody, but she knew. And that was fascinating to start with. But because of that, it's like I continue to open. It's like a rose blooming. It continues to turn, and as petals fall, more petals come, and I keep opening, and it's like, oh my gosh, it just too much information coming in. I shouldn't say too much, but a lot of information coming in, and trying to sift through my belief system, trying to sift through and actually digest the information that I'm getting. It's interesting, and I think I found myself being, my path being more of a facilitator of other people's paths, if that makes any sense.
Well, absolutely.
It's not like I'm supposed to be the king or some guru or something, just somebody there to poke at a person who's supposed to be a guru and say, hey, you know what? You should really concentrate on this, or you should read this book, or you should talk to this person. I'm kind of like I think that's my role, is to kind of point out things and let other people, carry on and become wiser and more enlightened.
What a wonderful mission.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
It is. It's so important what you're doing and putting people together. In fact, some of the people you've already talked to me about that I'm going to be getting together with. I think that it's wonderful that what everybody has a piece of the puzzle of this. There are no gurus. The days of the gurus are over. We don't have. If I would say, if there's anybody following somebody and they think that they're better than them, think again. They're not. There's no gurus. We're all the gurus.
Yeah, I think we're all just pieces in a big puzzle.
Absolutely.
And until we all realize where we fit, and where we kind of just relax. I'm just imagining myself just kind of taking a deep breath and relaxing into a big wall of other people and just saying, okay, this is my spot.
Yeah.
Then, once we're all connected, then I think maybe, I don't know how many generations from now we'll actually get to a point where those who are off planet will open up a little bit more and say, okay, now you morons, you've got to a point where we can now kind of hang out with you, or we'll let you sit at the adult table. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, well, I'm just, you're just picking up what I was thinking in my mind, not what I was saying. But but I absolutely agree that but I don't think it's generations, really. In my humble opinion, I think that we're closer than we think. Of course, there's no time out in time and space. There's also the let's say the Mandela effect, where timelines can change, and so the Earth can go into a different timeline, a different change, and it could be in my lifetime or my children's lifetime. It's hard to say, because there's been such a raise in consciousness, just say since 2012. That's not that long ago. And yet we finally, actually, they're talking and showing in the news media that the government, the military, not the government, but the military, and even Pentagon are talking UFOs now. They're allowing it to come out on news and stuff. When I look back in 1989, I didn't think that would ever happen. So when I started, my mission on this path. So maybe better than generations away. I'm hoping I would hope that it would be in my lifetime. I would love that.
Well, in this lifetime, anyway.
Yeah, in this lifetime. In this lifetime. Well,
as opposed to your next or the last one, yeah. It's funny that we look at this dribble of disclosure, or acceptance of UFOs. It seems to kind of piggybacked on about a 15-year ago or more, or more or less, maybe 10 years. A lot of these paranormal TV shows where someone's go out and poke at a ghost, and it's got us. It's kind of got the conversation going that, Grandma used to always see ghosts, or I saw stuff when I was a little kid. And that, so people are coming forward saying, I used to see stuff like that too. And it seemed to be more politically acceptable, socially acceptable to come out and say, yeah, I've seen a ghost, or I've seen a UFO, or I go to the International Bigfoot Conference in Kennewick, Washington in September. Put on by Russell Accord. He's now got a TV show out in regards to Bigfoot, and I've always said this. I sat at a table with a bunch of couples there, and they were in their 70s and 80s, and they go to these conferences because Grandma really couldn't talk about it at home with the kids because they all looked at her and said, "Yeah, Grandma used to watch the 9-foot hairy guy take apples out of the tree in the backyard." At least at these conferences, they're hanging around people who also saw things like that. So it was like hanging out with their people. But it's becoming more socially acceptable to come up with these.
Yeah, in my
stories.
day, and I'm up there with the grandparent type, that you're mentioning. In my day, if we talked about this, it's the rubber room. When back in '91, I first started talking about Ayano, and my connection and my experiences with this tall 7.5-foot reptilian, but in their mind, they were not ready for that, and so anything that looked like a lizard had to be the devil, Satan, demons. So so we've come a long way.
We have, and we can get into a little bit of trapped into, again, with the human brain and our attempt to put everything in a box, because we want organization. We don't want to be, we want to have some control, and it's our feeble arrogance and our way of understanding things that we want to be able to control things. So when you say, I saw this big lizardy thing, they kind of look at you like, okay, you're either crazy or you saw a demon.
Exactly.
Or dealing with a lot of, you interview people who are demon hunters, and they go out and they try to exorcise demons from your house. Well, depending on their religious background, and the majority of these people are Catholic or Roman Catholic, their religious belief is a ghost is a demon.
Right. Exactly.
So it's got to be every ghost you see is bad. Well, no, it's my grandmother. She's come through, and we're just trying to help her cross. And no, your grandmother is a demon. She's tricking you because that's what Satan does.
Right.
Yes, everything's a lie. Well, how do you know? Like, oh, my grandmother came through and said everything's going to be okay. How terrible. What a demon thing to do. Tell my grandmother, sweet grandmother, telling me everything's going to be okay. No, it's not a demon, you moron.
As in life, so in death.
Yeah.
So if they were a good person in life, in death they're going to be a good person. So yeah, you might have somebody who's demonic who tries to come in because they might have been a killer in this lifetime, and now they're stuck in their.
This is where you and I would probably disagree, because I believe, and I've crossed over with psychics, dead people. If you're an ass in life and you die, you will be an ass until you cross over.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah, and then you could, once you go do all the things you do, and my listeners tired of me explaining what happens after you die and the blue room and all the stuff you have to do, then you can come back, but you have no judgment, and you completely understand why you did the things you did, and you've already accepted it and apologized, basically, and moved on. But if you don't cross over and you're a ghost, you're a jackass. You're going to be a jackass, and those guys are the hardest ones to clearing out of a house sometimes, because a lot of them will stay there because they have a religious belief that they will go to hell when they die. And the hard part is to tell them, hey, dude, there's no hell.
It's interesting. Yeah, I've done house clearing, so I know what you're talking about. Yeah. And some of them were just, a relative that came back, and the people are misunderstanding, and others, which was like involved with a teenager who was into really heavy-duty drugs. That was not any kind of nice being, and I saw it in a closet. Well, I was in the closet, he was in the closet, and I saw it. And he first showed himself as this beautiful-looking being, and then he shapeshifted into what he really looked like, or he allowed me to see it, let's say, versus shapeshift. But he allowed me to see what he really looked like, and he was, it was pretty. Yeah. Actually, I stopped doing clearings after that.
And
I did.
They'll do that. They will show you what scares you.
Mm-hmm. And they did, and I stopped doing clearings after that.
You basically say, smarten up. It's like, that's not you. Yes, it is. I am evil. Look at my eyes and my teeth. Yeah, shut up. Yeah, it's, we deal a lot, we deal a lot with clearing, and we do that remotely, which is cool. You kind of have a psychic who shows up in your house in England, takes a deep breath, and all of a sudden is describing exactly what your house looks like as she walks through it or floats through it or whatever. And bumps into all the ghosts. Yesterday was the first time I actually ever saw a ghost in my house. And I was sitting on the couch, and my tenant came up, and we were just watching TV, and I looked over to my right, and I saw a mist, like a white mist, just kind of disappear. Like it was kind of wiggling, waving, and you can't see my hands right now, but I'm doing this waving thing. It's kind
to
of
the peripheral vision?
Yeah, to the peripheral vision, I caught it, and I looked at it, and it disappeared. And
wonderful.
I looked at I said, Lucy, I just saw a ghost. And she said, where? And I said, just here. And it was only about, again, I'm doing this with my hand, about 4 feet off the ground. And I know there's a ghost in the house. We call her Annie. She's about between 8 and 10 years old, and she doesn't want to cross. She's just happy this is where she hangs out. Then I was talking to my friend, a psychic friend, yesterday, and she said, oh, you've got a guy standing behind you. And I said, what? And behind me was exactly where I had seen this ghost earlier. I was sitting in a chair, and it was right behind me. And I said, ask him if I had seen him. And she said, yeah, you saw him earlier today. I went, crap, okay, that's him. And she described him. He was a First Nations or American Indian, and he had black makeup, like a band across his eyes. And I said, is he lost? Is he a quote-unquote ghost, or is he crossed over and come back? And she said, he came back, and you saw him as he was coming from his, we'll call it a dimension, into this one. And that's what I saw. That's really cool. And she said, yeah, he's not negative. He's actually relatively positive. This was an area that they would come through because there was a creek at one time here and blah, blah. She's in Maple Valley, Washington, in southern Washington State, and has never been to my house and doesn't know that, yeah, there was a creek. In fact, there still is a creek that runs under the house here. And she said this was just a very interesting, multiple, kind of a connection of multi-dimensions in this area. And, well, there's a ley line under the house, too, which is a whole other issue. But there's a whole bunch of things that connected him to this property and in this area, and he came through. I went, oh, that's kind of cool. And he's not even a Native American or Native Canadian or First Nations. He's not even from his tribe or his band wouldn't even be from this area. It would be from another place in Canada or the U.S. But this is where he came through because it was a good place to come through.
A nice vortex.
Yeah, and that was kind of cool. I did have a portal. Somebody came in here and because of their energy opened a portal up in one of the rooms downstairs a year ago. And it took a while. In July 26th last year, we cleared a shaman and a psychic came and cleared 9 entities out of a room that they couldn't. They were trapped in a room down there.
Now, were any of the entities ET? Did they say?
I would say. Here, let me just grab. I have them in my book.
Because I've found that when you have a portal, it is a place for all types to come in and out of, and it's like they see that light and they're drawn to it. So, and sometimes it can be ghosts, sometimes it can be ETs, sometimes elementals. Elementals,
well, actually 4 elemental beings helped.
Okay.
The 4 elemental beings from the property helped contain one of them. The first fellow that crossed, the first human ghost, was a black male. Most like it looked like a slave.
Okay.
We didn't have black slaves in this part of Canada. But he came through and he was on fire. He died in a fire and he was crossed. His wife and child both who had died in the fire, came and got him and crossed him over. The next one was a non-human shapeshifter. And the big rule was, as it was coming up out of the basement, we were not to feel sorry for it. It was showing us, it was kept changing its shape. It kept getting smaller. It was placed in a cage by the shaman, and it started kept trying to get small and get out of the cage, like probably between the bars. But the 4 elemental beings came up, and one at each corner of the small box, and it turned white and got bigger, then went to the light, and the elementals went back to the basement. So I don't know where that one was from, but one had a bit of a communication with us. Okay, one was a tree-shaped thing, was on fire. Extremely large snake came out of the tree. Dark, which turned into a small snake about 2 feet long. Turned into a shell. Okay, and then wrapped. Okay, and then back in the snake, wrapped around the girl Stevie, her arm, and tried to change into a toad. It kept shape shifting, and then it went back to the light. Another one. This is the weird one. It came bounding out of the basement as a deer, changed into a cow as it tried to jump over the shaman. Of course, a cow doesn't jump that high, so it didn't. It kept flipping back and forth between all sorts of different animals. Finally, a small gold finch and placed in a cave. And this is the one actually communicated. So this one I'm thinking is E.T. It says, "I've traveled such a long way to be trapped in the cage." And it turned into a butterfly, and it tried to go out of the cage underground. And actually, this one, most of them were going to the bright white light.
Right.
This one actually a golden light came from the sun. And then it changed into a white light, and that's how it left. And those were and the rest of them were humans, including a youngish fellow who died on a ship, or was killed on a ship when he was ill. The crew thought he was contagious, so they killed him. And
fascinating.
Another fellow that was executed on a boat. All from the Pacific, the Atlantic Ocean, which is bizarre because I'm right on the Pacific. But they all came through this crazy portal opened up by a person who is E.T. Literally, I shouldn't say literally. She's very, very connected. And she said, yeah, every time I go to sleep, I travel outside of my body. A fellow comes and gets me out of the window, and we go up to a place, and she describes this beautiful beach area, and then they come back. She comes back at night and slips back into her body, she said. And she said, yeah, I never get a good night's sleep when that happens. I said, yeah, because you're not sleeping. You're traveling somewhere else. And a few of the psychics all determined, I can't remember what Planetary or what ET group she was from, but she's down here experiencing what we are in life, or humans. Very, very. But she's the one whose energy was all over the place and opened the portal up. So that was a bit of a cluster that week. So
that's interesting, and that makes total sense because I've seen that to be that all different types, and it's so it kind of makes us wonder. These portals that happen and open up, what they're for. Like I have a portal in my house, and it's because I have an agreement with Ayano that he's here, but not to be seen. He's here, and his group can come and help me, and other groups of ETs can help, but I'm not to see him, and it's because I made an agreement and that I would go into and then maybe another show because it's a long story. But other people see him. Other people see him all the time. So people will come to my group and say, "Oh, he's in the hall standing." Okay,
oh, geez, really?
Yeah. So so it. But it's a great thing, and nobody gets any bad feeling. And people who stay at my house always say, I felt like there was someone watching over me. I say, yeah, there is.
Yeah. So Don't be going through the cutlery drawers. Come on, that's the fine china. Leave that alone. I got somebody watching you.
Well, no, it's more like protecting them from anything that might happen in their dreams or something. Like they're protecting any entities that might try to come in, or that kind of thing. So any abductions, they stop abductions, MiLab abductions.
Oh, good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So see, and we were off air talking about my friend who actually does the remote viewing and things like that, and the remote clearing of spirits. She does like you do. She's a certified hypnotherapist, and she does the ET experience regressions, and she pulls that missing time back. Mm-hmm. And we were down at Alien Con in 2019, I believe it was, in Los Angeles, and she was pulling time for this fellow who had an ET experience, and she was interfered with because she had a being step in and basically say, no, you're not supposed to be passing this information on. And she had, in all intents and purposes, what would be referred to as a seizure. Uh-huh. And we had to get her out of the seizure. And it was assisted by another being stepping in, telling that first prick of a being to say, no, you can't interfere with her. Mm-hmm. And he got the information. But there was that one ET stepped in to say, okay, we got to stop this. He's not supposed to know this. And then a higher vibration being stepped in and said, no, he has to know this. Mm-hmm. And it's time for you to leave him alone. So that's interesting that you can have beings that are protectors, and they will come in. And in this guy's case, these are unknown to him. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he did experience he's got an interesting. There was a spaceship. There was a bright light hovering over his backyard, mm-hmm. and he had a Polaroid camera. He was out there just taking pictures with this Polaroid, flashing it around, and then he looked up and this light had appeared. Uh-oh. So he thought that was kind of interesting. Uh-huh. And he took, he had all these Polaroids that were, he had kind of leave them alone while they're developing. And he took a couple of pictures of the light. Not that he thought he'd catch anything, but when he took these photos, he laid them down, and he went and looked at them later, and there were handprints, like fingers, right across the Polaroids. And each finger had almost like these tiny little hairs coming out of it. So whatever had picked up his pictures to look at them to see if he had taken a picture of the spaceship, realized that, okay, there was nothing on there, and they put them back down, except their fingerprints, because of whatever energy they had, affected the photos. And he's got the prints on the photos. And he sent them to a forensic fingerprint expert who came back and said, yeah, they're real fingerprints. And you can tell by there's no ridge lines and stuff like our fingerprints, but each of those hands had thousands of little hairs on them, microscopic hairs that would help you grasp something. He says it's an animal or some kind of living being touched your photos. So he had during the
abduction, more than likely. He was probably taken and had snapped those shots, and then they were checking everything out.
Yep. And he was the guy, because he did have that lost time, so they were doing a regression on him. And that's the guy that I told you I interviewed, and we were watching the meter go, the red lights were on, we were taping the whole thing, and nothing, the whole interview was gone. Oh, right. Yeah. I was like looking at it going, how the hell? So, yes, he was allowed to get the information from the psychic, and no, he wasn't allowed to tell me about it. So, damn.
Fascinating stuff that happened in this line.
Yes, crazy. We are talking to Miesha Johnston. She is a ton of things. Third generation experiencer, and including MiLabs and MK Ultra, and author of a number of books. Again, Covert Abduction, Military Harassment, Surveillance, Interrogation, and Mind Control. They Weren't Butterflies, a Monarch's Survival Story, and Galactic Genealogy, Planetary Origins. And they're all available for sale on Amazon and on her website. If you bounce over to her website, starseedawakening.org. Again, starseedawakening.org. Also, very, very active on social media on Facebook. So Miesha Johnston on Facebook. That's Miesha Johnston, Johnston, Miesha
Correct.
Johnston.
Correct.
So please follow her there. Getting back to the
If I could just say one other thing.
Yes, ma'am.
Right now I don't have them, but I will be having the cards. I also have that on my website, the cards. And then because I'm doing a whole new process, I'm going to have the books and the cards all together on this next print. But so they can watch for those Experiencer Oracle deck.
The Experiencer Oracle deck, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I do Oracle cards. I wonder if I should. No, I can't do that because I'm not an experiencer. I'm supposed to be.
But you may run into experiencers, and you just read what you just. You're psychic readers, so you just let it come through what you're getting. That's all.
That's kind of cool. Maybe I will then.
Yeah,
I know that,
and I have a book that gives you all the information too.
Well, you're going to make me read? Is there pictures in the book?
Yes.
Good.
Of
then
course,
I'll do
the
it.
cards have pictures, and the book has the picture of the card.
Oh.
Oh, and then, like I said, the cards just will have a phrase about. Like UFO classroom, you partake in a learning aboard crafts.
Okay.
Or not partake, you participate. I can't read without my reading glasses.
That's why they call them reading glasses.
That is.
Going back a little bit, let's dig a little bit deeper, if we can, into galactic genealogy, planetary origins. Now, did you also have a Starseed galactic genealogy chart?
I do. That's also. I don't. What I have it in the genealogy book. It is the very last page. People can just cut it out, go ahead and get it enlarged to whatever size they want, and then laminate it, and they've got the chart right there.
Okay. Now I'm going to drag you kicking and screaming into elemental beings. In your experience, in your opinion, in your communications with other people and or other beings, what is your opinion of what we are over time have called elemental beings? Like we'll call the Greek god Pan, god of the hillside, or those beings that people saw like had the head of a stag but the body of a man. Where do they fit in your mind amongst all the different beings on Earth and in the universe?
Okay, to me, elementals, just my opinion, and when we're talking about the ones like you mentioned, and then they're interdimensional in some respects, and then sometimes the elementals that people talk about were like a Pan and the what do you call them? The horses with the Pegasus,
okay.
Things like that. Those, in my opinion, are part of that galactic petri dish that this whole planet is. So they may be parts of these different galactic groups that have been genetically altering, and I believe that some of them went off planet. Maybe some of them died off, didn't make it, whatever it is. But I believe that all of these things that we call our mythology are parts of that genetic project that has been happening since the beginning of Earth. Okay. Well, maybe not the beginning of Earth, but the beginning of Earth's civilizations.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's in your studies of these beings, or what these beings could be. And I mean the intergalactic, or the getting back into the that word,
The galactic?
Thank you, Starseed Galactic Genealogy chart, and all those things. You've got a list of, I think, about, was it 40 of these things? Venusians and Syrians and reptilians. And
right.
So how many do you think? Like, how many offhand, approximately, different intergalactic races are there?
Thousands, maybe
Thousands?
millions,
Okay.
maybe millions. We just have a
tiny,
tiny handful that we can accept. Because, first of all, we have a really hard time accepting the ones that may look like a hammer-toed shark or a hammerhead shark or something. We may have a hard time accepting one that looks like a triangle. But these things have been seen in experiences. So, in my small group that is on the chart, there's like, what do I have, 12? 10, 11, 12. We have 12 different groups, but within those groups, there's many galactic groups even within those groups. And like, for instance, if in Syrian, or maybe better to take somebody like Pleiadian. So within Pleiadian, you might have some human races that look like humanoids, and others that may have different looks. I'm not saying that that's how Pleiades is, because so far we haven't really heard about any. That was probably a bad example. Let's do Syrian. Again, like I said earlier, different races. So, and if they came from different races, say if the Lyrans came from different races, and maybe at one point in time they were four-legged walking on four legs, but the genetics until they become a lion head and a human body, that's just an example. So I'm sure there's, thousands, if not millions.
Okay. Yeah, after I asked the question, I thought, that was kind of, you're talking theoretical and about the universe. So it just continues to go on and on and on and on. Everything from just things that are just a ball of light to what looks like an owl. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's fascinating. And I did a regression in June. And I have always been told that my main spirit guide looked like he was from Egypt 30,000 years ago. And I was told by the psychic when they first told me this that he'd never been terrestrial. And it was a year or so later, it dawned on both of us when a shaman pointed it out. He said, "Oh, look, your spirit guide, he's E.T." Oh, that's what she meant when he wasn't terrestrial. Mm-hmm. And I found out that this is really weird, that I am my primary spirit guide.
Oh, no, it's not weird at all.
I'm my higher self is an ET, who is my spirit guide, my primary spirit guide. That when I asked what the guy's name was, the psychic said he's laughing at you because we're always trying to put names, like a name on something,
right?
Like give things names, and and he just. But I actually, in my regression, I end up being him, and flying into this place or landing on a big pier and walking to this underground area and sitting down and describing myself as this very tall, bald guy with a little bit of a turned up nose and high cheekbones and things. And I still have I don't know what race that is, but that was me. And she said, "Well, who are you?" And I said, "I am my higher self." Mm-hmm. And she said, "Who else are you?" "Oh, I am my spirit guide." And she said, "Yeah." So when you're talking to your spirit, asking questions of your spirit guide, you're basically talking to yourself.
Really, that we are all facets of these different galactic beings that we have been. We still are, because it's all going on simultaneously. So we are them. We are one, actually, all of us. We're all connected. But so yes, we're very much our guides. Very much so. In fact, I had a visit from this she just happened to be beautiful. I had a lot of different types, but this one came to me, and she was just beautiful blonde being, and she wore this garment that was sparkling. Actually, it was nothing like I'd ever seen on Earth. And she said, "Beloved Miesha, we have missed you so much." And then we went on with the communication via telepathic, and I found out that she was my guide and I was her. So she was me and I was her, and that was me. But to me, I'm certainly not beautiful. But to see that picture, that being there, she was me, and I actually have a drawing of her up in my living room to remind myself that there's a beautiful part of me.
Oh yeah, it's like we're all beautiful.
Yes, we are all beautiful, but
yes.
Unfortunately, we make all these judgments here on Earth, which is part of the problem that we are, and that's why part of the problem we can't get out there in the galactic because of all of our self-hate and loathing and judgments against ourselves and others.
Yeah, and that's we try to teach our kids not to do that, and that lasts until they hit post-puberty, and then they're all screwed up again. Yeah, it's
they go on
competition.
The computer.
And the competition.
Yeah.
And the computer. It's the competition. Once you get to a certain age and you're competing for sex and food and shelter and water and all the things that we need to survive, we perceive that we need to put one group down, so it makes us feel more superior. Therefore, we are the better group. When people should just know I'm the best, and that's it. No, I'm kidding. I'd love to, I need to find out what interesting race of being I am, but it's not. I shouldn't say I need to find out. It's more of a curiosity, and oh crap, that's kind of cool.
Well, I have a chart right here, just for the fun of it. If you'd like, I can see. Okay, I use a pendulum, and I dowse with a pendulum. And so I plant my arm, my elbow on my desk here, and I just let the pendulum go. And as soon as you ask what your galactic genealogy is, the pendulum will stop circling, and it'll go to what your planet of origin is.
Do I just have to
think about it or say it? Either way.
Okay. What is my galactic genealogy, please?
Okay, and immediately stops circling and is going straight. And so we have Lyran is one, and it's moving again, and now it's going to another, and Belchex Orion is another, and that's just we are more than just these few that I mentioned. We are, and Arcturian is another. So with the Lyrans, Lyrans really have a need to help people, those who are in need of help. That's something that they really want to do. Orions can be, they really need balance in their life and balance and flow. And if it's off balance, it's very hard for them. They're also very much judgmental to themselves and others because they see things that others do not see. Arcturians are really one of the most loving races, and Arcturians, Lyrans, Beltrex Orions, they are all part of the groups that are coming here through the Starseed program, the hybrid program, are coming in and that to help Earth. And so, like the Arcturians, I don't get a lot of Arcturians. Arcturians are tall, sometimes tall blue beings, or very white beings, or sometimes they're short blue beings or white beings, and sometimes they can be looked like a horse. So there's different groups and such within that planetary group. But let me see. I'm trying to. Right off the bat, I'm having a hard time remembering about Arcturians. So let me just read a couple of sentences here of the personal traits of an Arcturian. Arcturians teach the most fundamental ingredients for living in the fifth dimension is love. Negative fear and guilt must be overcome in exchange for love and light. The Arcturians are the most loving and non-judgmental beings you can possibly imagine, and factions of groups that they have been, let's say, their enemies, are very fearful of them because they have the most advanced ships in the galactic.
Oh,
yeah. So those are that's just a little tiny short reading to give you a taste of it. I didn't go into a whole lot of detail because of the time constraints. But does any of that fit you?
Well, it's funny that I'm a Leo, so that
Lyran, okay.
Orion, the constellation Orion has been very, very prominent in my life.
Absolutely.
When I say prominent,
you look at it.
I look at it and I stare at it. I can. That's the one I can pick out. Like I can just look. And people say, "What are those three stars?" Well, that's the belt of Orion. How do you know that? I have no idea.
That's why. That was home.
The Arcturian, I don't know much about that, so I'm going to have to dig into that. But the Orion...
Arcturian you can see in the night sky, too.
Okay, that's a constellation then. Oh, they're all constellations?
They're all constellations, and Lyra is one of the brightest stars in the night sky as well. Actually, you're not really seeing Lyra, you're seeing Vega. Vega is the brightest, but Lyra is right behind it, and so basically what you're seeing is Vega, but it's still part of Lyran. Vega is also the Lyran system as well. So so I could have told you before you even said that you were mesmerized by the Orion star system, as I am my whole life. I was mesmerized by the Orion and the Pleiadian system because and then I have others too, but those are two of my planetary groups that my galactic family I'm from.
That Pleiadians, that's what the young lady that was living the tenant in the basement room that opened the portal. This Pleiadian. She's and that was who would another Pleiadian would come and get her, and they'd go off and go back home every night or every once or twice a week.
Pleiadians help people. They're one of the major galactic assisters. It's like the Syrians, the Pleiadians, the Venetians, the Arcturians, the Orions, Lyrans. Who else? I don't want to forget anybody. But basically, those are the ones that are assisting. Procyon also are assisting planet Earth in our awakening. And the only way they can do that is through people. They can't come stand there and talk to us, so they have to do it through people. So the people either who are reborn here, or shall I say hybrids born here, and I mean hybrids meaning hybrids, but I also mean starseed hybrids. So we're born. It's not like but we do have alien DNA, but it's not like we're all of us are hybrids. There's a starseed program and there's a hybrid program.
Okay.
A lot of the hybrids are coming in now, and you can tell them by their abilities. These amazing children that are coming in now are really what my galactics tell me are the biggest and most hope for Earth are those that are coming in now. In the last 10 years or so, maybe even longer, last 20 years probably.
That's
fascinating. They're the fourth wave. They're the fourth wave. And I know you probably talk to people who say, oh, my child is just amazing. They're so smart. There's this or that. Well, if you take a look at it, that's happening a lot. There's a lot of kids out there that are just amazing. And unfortunately, though, when they get into the school system or they get into the very big program that they're using on these children is that damn games. So I think the powers that be get them hooked into games and get them off their course. That's their dark night of the soul that they're going to have to come through. But I think that's what they've used to detour them from their mission. And because they come in as these amazing kids with these amazing psychic abilities, and they're savants, and they're all of this, and then all of a sudden and I'm talking in terms of my own grandchildren, a couple of them are that way, and they've been detoured by the damn games, all the games that they, video games, and now internet video games, and connected, and whatever the names of the games are. But yeah, that's
totally. Those are time machines in themselves.
Yes,
I used to play video games, a Call of Duty, and I remember when the internet, actually when the online game first came out, I think it was called Duke Nukem. I'd get off work at 3 a.m. or midnight, and I'd be playing this game just before I go to bed, and I'd realize the sun was coming up.
Absolutely, they are time machines. Yeah.
And you go to bed, and your eyes are physically pounding in the sockets. You can feel them when you shut your eyes. It is amazing. There is, on your website, starseedawakening.org, you have a Starseed questionnaire. Mm-hmm. And you have a number of questions on there. And I'm going through that. There's 25 questions, and I'm kind of going through going, oh, crap, I'm kind of hitting all these things. But is there like an age group for Starseeds? Because I'm tons older than some 15, 16-year-old.
No, there is not an age. Actually, there is a wonderful lady that coined this, and right now for the life of me, I can't remember her name, but it was wonderful that she came out the first, second, and third wave. Dolores Cannon, there is her name. Okay, so Dolores Cannon came out with the Starseed first, second, and third wave, and I think now we're in the fourth wave. But yes, Starseeds have been coming in my lifetime. The hippies, let's say, were the very first Starseeds. They tried to show, before the CIA came in and brought in the sex and the drugs and all that, they just wanted to show, love each other. Let's just love one another. So they were the first Starseeds that came in, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah, and then you had the other groups that came in and have been coming, the waves that have been coming in. So yes, absolutely, you could be a Starseed. Absolutely, you're a Starseed. Absolutely. You wouldn't be awake right now if you weren't a Starseed.
Okay, that's the other. I was going to get to that question because I really quickly. I'm going to go through here and I'm going to answer these questions, and you'll see how it made a lot of sense. Number one, you're intelligent through though I may not have had top grades due to learning disabilities like dyslexia, ADHD, ADD, have above average IQ. I have dyslexia. I never learned my math. Like I never learned how to do long division. Mm-hmm. That weird looking big number 7 kind of thing, and you fill all that stuff. I never learned that. But I ended up after school, or after high school, I worked on a survey crew as a rodman. So I was doing division, but my brain made shortcuts.
Of course, absolutely.
So I could divide 820 into 6,726 in my head, but I couldn't show my work because I wasn't using the basis that you were taught in school. My brain did it on my own through basically reverse multiplication. I'm trying to explain that to somebody today. They're going, okay, it doesn't work. I said, yeah, that's why I failed math. Nagging suspicion you are more than your parents' offspring, that you have some unfulfilled mission, consequence for both yourself and Earth. That's what got me into the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. There was always something that I had to go do something for somebody that I wasn't fulfilling, because I didn't get into the Mounties until I was in my 30s. I just had to do something. Had disgust and perhaps loathing for much of the required and repetitious work in school. Well, yeah, because I didn't see it as an advantage to anybody or to learning, and I found that I learned better if you just let me alone. were rebellious in school, refused to do homework, and may have rejected authority teachers or seriously wanted to rebel, but didn't dare, usually parental pressure or fear. Yeah, I didn't do my homework, and I just kind of went along with everybody else. I didn't overly rebel. I was the class clown. Which was my rebellion.
That's a kind of a rebellion.
Yeah, it was.
Yes,
May have experienced early depression and feelings of helplessness, ranged from sadness to utter despair. Sadness. I never was in one particular peer group. I was in all of them, or all of the cliques. I played football, and I was also in drama. So it was like these two different things. I had friends from a number of different groups. I didn't have the suicidal feelings, but I got depressed and really empathetic around other people too. I get depressed when someone else got depressed. Have difficulty in service-oriented jobs, may resist authority in their employment, and prefer being the boss. In the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, it's military-based. I was very, this is where I'm kind of opposite of this. It says resist authority. I was a member of Greenpeace back when they first started, and we quit because they weren't radical enough. So over time, I thought, you know what, if you can't change things by yelling from the outside of the building, how about we join and change things from the inside the building? And and so it was my way of resisting authority was becoming authority and changing it from the inside. And I do prefer being the boss, but I did work well with really good supervisors, and we all kind of worked together. And I also worked in a branch of organized crime where it was called flat ranking. So your big boss was doing exactly the same thing you were, so we all just kind of got along. The body temperature thing, I have no idea what that, if mine was a little warmer.
No, a little cooler.
A little cooler? Okay. The dreaming, I feel like I've had dreams of angels, star visitors, or family from earlier existence all the time. I have that. Trouble accepting systems that consider broken or ineffective, political educate. Oh my God, yeah. That's me. Frustration with materialistic lifestyle and values and keeping up with the Joneses. Yes, I have frustration with that. But I understand the machine, how it works in lifestyle, in life, that I need to make this much money to fulfill this need that I want. I want to go to Fiji.
Sure.
Therefore, I need this. So it is frustrating, but I still like to have my toys. Deep empathy for others, intolerance for stupidity. Yes, my empathy for others can be painful at times, and as a peace officer, it was for the first 9 months of my job. If you called me to your house because your car was stolen, Miesha, by the time I talked to you, it was like our car was stolen. And I gave 20% of myself to you. Well, that's only good for 5 people a day. And I was burnt out. And an older supervisor, actually wasn't a supervisor, an older peer, or more experienced peer, 9 months, he said, you know what, empathize with people, but do not take on their problems. Do not make their problems your own, which was always a hard thing for me. So as soon as I realized I could empathize with somebody and their plight without making their problem, and that's an empath problem. People coming and sharing their problems, well, they think they're sharing their problems, they're basically just dumping their problems on you and makes them feel better. And you take them home and you're a mumbling pile of poo because you can't. Basically, you can't exist. Have psychic or spiritual interest, appear fairly young in life or before your teens. I saw shadows in my bedroom when I was a little kid. Things. So I did have belief. I was probably 10, and I saw a gnome. Believe it or not, like a garden gnome.
Oh yeah.
But I went to pet some horses in a paddock in a rural, like, a semi-rural area, and there was a clearing of about 2 feet on the outside of the fence, the barbed wire fence, where the horses had stuck their head through the fence and they were eating the grass on the other side. And then the grass to the left of that, looking at the fence on the right, was maybe anywhere from 8 inches to 2 feet high. And as I looked up, I could see this little gnome about 70, 80 feet in front of me, just halfway out of that grass, the long grass, into the short grass. So I thought, oh, somebody put a gnome there, like a garden gnome. And I jumped over the ditch and I walked over and I looked and the thing was gone. And I looked all over for this gnome and it wasn't there. And I thought, I must have been seeing things. And I was playing with the horses after that and then went home. And then later, it dawned on me, no, I really did see a gnome. But so that was
fascinating.
Yeah. Having, frustration, psychic, may have trouble focusing on assigned tasks, may jump around conversations. No kidding. Have strong intuition and psychic experiences such as premonitions, seeing angels, ghosts. Okay, I got that out of the way. Awareness of other dimensions, parallel realities, and other planets, and had possible contact. See, that's the hard one. When you have that one, and that's number 15, may have awareness of other dimensions, parallel realities, and other planets, and have possibly had contact. That is now learned because of where I am in my life at this point. I had an awakening. I understand, and I've talked to people like you. And when you tell me about things like this, I don't question it like I would have when I was really young.
So it resonates.
It just makes sense. It's like, well, of course. Maybe electrically sensitive, such as watches not working, street lights going off out as you walk by them, electrical equipment malfunctioning, lights blowing out. No, I haven't had that, but I've been around people who walk into places and all the fluorescent lights go. Or lean up against a power pole, like a lamp post outside, and the lamp post goes off. But that's never happened with me. So number 16, haven't really done. During your dreams, you levitate objects by fly, bilocate, astral travel, see yourself in alternate reality. Daily. Being an avid reader or watching videos, YouTube, listening to CDs, tapes, drinking it in, knowledge is quicker than the average person. Reading. You better have pictures in the book, or I'm not going to read it. And I do not
I agree.
I do not do nonfiction well. Like in school, they'd have to force me to do nonfiction. But if it's, I beg your pardon, fiction. Nonfiction, I'll read from one end to the other. Fiction, I won't. But I would rather, and back in the day, before we had books on tape, I would go to the store. If I had to do a book report, they used to have at our library, for blind people, they had books on record.
Oh, yeah.
3 RPM. So I would go in and I would do that as opposed to read the book.
You sound like me. That has to do with the dyslexia too,
Oh, okay.
Because it's not like that. It's not just that we turn numbers around, but we actually read, and our brains are wired differently. So we read and write kind of backwards, and it's very, very unusual. I'm sure, like if you do pick up a book, you go to either the middle of it or the back of it, and start that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't everybody?
No, dyslexia. That's us.
It's funny too. As a policeman, I would I worked 9 years of 28 years. I worked in uniform, and I'd pull up behind, or even when I was working in a specialized section, I would radio in a license plate to check. And I'd say, okay, this license plate is ABC 123. And they'd come back and say, no, James, doesn't come back to anything. Can you read it again? I said, it's ABC 123. No, could you read it again? And I went, look, it'll get, okay, never mind. It's BCA 213. And they go, okay. So what I'd have to do is I actually have to physically write it down on a notepad, read it from the notepad, or I would
compare
50% of the time get it wrong.
Oh yeah,
If I
that's
didn't look at,
dyslexia. Yeah,
yeah,
our brains are wired differently, and that doesn't mean that we're not smart as anybody else, but they are wired differently. The same thing with Asperger's and autism and all of those. Those are we're wired differently, and I find that dyslexia is very prevalent in. See, I did that dyslexia just then. No, are prevalent in experiencers, contacts. People in the paranormal.
Oh, I see. Yeah, it makes sense. Number 19, seeks truth and meaning of life. May seek this through religion, spirituality, spiritual groups, books, and self-help books. I used to be fascinated with spiritual books, and especially books on, we'll call them elemental beings, and the old Greek gods and maybe Celtic, the beings that the Celts saw. I thought it was very, very interesting. And it was very, it was, it really rang true to what I was looking at. And then kind of the darker stuff too, but I didn't get really into, I don't watch horror movies. Like slasher movies, anything like that. Horror movies to me, like the most scariest one I ever saw was The Exorcist, and that was it. I only went there because a bunch of my friends went at the movie theater. But I would never ever watch that again. I don't watch movies like that. The scary movies to me are, I don't get into those things. Dabbled in drugs, prescription, and alcohol to find answers on how I would fit in. No, I didn't do that. When you say dabbled in alcohol, yeah, I drink. But I barely ever drink anymore. I never used drugs or prescription drugs. Attraction to powerful things in nature, thunderstorms, lightning, waterfalls, and the surf. Well, that's an empath thing, being attracted to the movement of water and giant old growth trees. And it's just, you can bring the energy out of that. Thunderstorms and lightning, I just love that. Waterfalls, I love. Attraction to ancient symbols. Yeah, weird attraction to ancient symbols. Having desire to do something to change and improve the world. May be stymied as what to do. May have trouble identifying the path. I have trouble identifying my path. That's the only reason I really go to psychics, to see where I am on path and how I'm doing. But I have this desire to improve the world and change, and that's one of the things I joined the Royal Canadian Mounted Police to do, because I'm actually helping. I always found I felt I was a small cog in a bigger machine, and trying to change it from the inside to help more people. And which got me in a lot of crap with my supervisors, who weren't that way inclined as I am.
Yes.
But I found in hindsight, looking back, I definitely identified to a lot of the other policemen I worked with who were of a higher vibration, or looking back, what I would call empaths. We all seemed to group together, and we all did things that were really, really good for the greater good of the community. Having an interest,
that was part of your path, I'm sure, is to help them realize who they were as well.
That is something that's actually come up lately in helping identify other empaths, and letting them understand why they feel things the way they feel, and why they're really good at certain things and not so good at other things, but and where they are. So we still, there's a kind of a group of us that sit over a beer and talk about stuff like that. Having an interest or attraction in such fields as science, archaeology, astronomy, or quantum physics. Well, let's leave quantum physics out of it. But archaeology is completely fascinating to me. Astronomy is fascinating. But archaeology, it would be my number one thing. I love digging up with my metal detector, even just digging up old things and looking around old buildings and graveyards and things. Expectations of great changes upon Earth in the near future. Yes. I expect that to happen, and that's number 25 on your list. I expect that to happen, but my inquisitive science brain and my needing to know side of my body says, okay, I need that to happen. I'm expecting it to happen, but I need to know when. And then the argument I have with myself is, no, you don't need to know. It's just coming. So there's like one side of me saying, Mo, curiosity says I need to know because I need to tell everybody. And then it's like, well, no, that's your ego. Like, why do you need to tell everybody? Well, because you're not everything to everybody. Let other people find out their own way. So that's that argument I have. My ego wants me to be the one running around again, telling everybody they're going to be okay. And, that's the little ADHD guy in me running around wanting, look at me, look what I've got here. I want to help everybody. This is me. Everybody be happy. And
that sounds like Arcturian Ensign Orion in there.
Yeah, well, but see, then Delirian is me going, it's not your job. It's like,
well, actually, Illyrians also are helpful, but there is a part, and I also saw you as a Syrian. I know because that's what came in too, even though it didn't show up in there. And the Syrians, they dig very deeply into everything, and they don't. Yeah, but we're made up of all of these, so that's the thing. We're made up of all these different groups that we are. Yeah, it's not just that we've been, but who we are, because it's all simultaneous.
Yes.
So
it's all happening once. And again, that list, that questionnaire is one of Stargate questionnaire is if you go to questionnaires at starseedawakening.org. That's Miesha's website. You can also answer the questions. A military abductee, experiencer /abductee. Starseed questionnaire is one I went through and then targeted individuals' symptoms, which goes through a whole other part. Oh, a reptilian encounter questionnaire. Oh,
yes. And I should have it in there, the Starseed hybrid questionnaire, which is a very long questionnaire. And that deals with, as a child, were you this way, or even as an adult, are your children this way?
Oh, okay. It's not on your questionnaire list.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have to put it in there. I am not a webmaster, and my webmaster is so very busy right now. She hasn't been able to do a lot. So that's why I have everything on blog, because I don't know how to put it into my whole page or the whole website. Oh. And so I put it on blog. So I'll add that questionnaire on blog so at least people can get to it that way.
That's really cool.
I'll do that.
Maybe I should do that too, because I'm really no good at updating my website. Other than all my podcasts are on the website, and I'll be adding some for my Patreon listener, my Patreon supporters. I'm adding a documentary called Bigfoot Girl that I was in, and it won't be like everybody else can go on Patreon and actually look at my podcasts, but my supporters get their names in for their draw once a month for the psychic reading, past life regression, or astrological chart. So they're the only ones who get that, and they are the only ones who'll be able to see the documentary and all the other documentaries that we're adding there, the paranormal ones and things, will be coming in. So it's kind of cool, but I don't know how to do that for my website. And I have to get a hold of my web mistress, and she will do it, but it's like $300 every time she does something, so it's
right.
Yeah.
So do it with the blog. So if you can go in the back door and you can add things on with the blog, that's how I've done it. That way, she showed me how to do that, so I don't have to go through her every time.
Excellent. Hey, I want to thank you. I'm trying to think if there's something else here. I'm going to end up having to bring you back kicking and screaming, because I know there's some other things I want to talk about. I really would like to get into the vector tour side of things and talk to you a little bit more about that and your experience interacting with ETs.
Oh, yeah, the interfacing and such as that. Yeah, I've got a lot of stories about that. Yeah,
and I'm going to bring you back kicking and screaming, and we'll talk about that. Okay. I also want to talk, and talk to you about some of the gear you use to actually go out and do your UFO tours, the night vision and things, stuff like that, because it's fascinating. And I know if we go to our website, starseedawakening.org, click on Vector 5 Tours, there's a little video on what goes on in those tours, and you see how you could see these things when one goes out there.
Yeah, you can go through Airbnb experiences for Las Vegas.
Airbnb experiences.
Yes.
For Las Vegas.
Right. People come to Las Vegas and let's say they get themselves an Airbnb here, immediately the experiences will pop up for them to choose of some of the things they want to do. And mine is one of them that comes up because I've done like 100 and about 200. No, I'm probably about. I don't know the figures. I was counting them the other day, but I've had something like 150 tours, right, through Airbnb, and since Las Vegas started, so that's where they can find it as well.
That is very cool. And that is a lot of fun. If you've never been on one of these UFO tours anywhere, definitely drop by.
I love it.
StarseedAwakening.org has Miesha Johnston's contact information on there. You can sign up. You actually have sessions that they can book online. If you have some inkling or someone's said, I think maybe you've had an ET experience, take a drop by.
Yes, now that's Facebook. They can find those on. They can go through the events. I have an experience group every week, and I have them on depending upon the week and stuff. But there's a calendar in Starseed Awakening ET Contactee Experiencer group on Facebook, and so there's a calendar there, and it'll tell you through the month when the groups are. But they're for 3 different types of group: ET Experiencer group, Contact, kind of light. We are very light into that, and then there's another group that we really get into everything, including the MiLab, and then there's another group that we talk about everything from MK Ultra to Secret Space Program.
Ooh, scary stuff. Well, we're going to have you back on, Miesha, because this has been fun, and I'm learning way too much. So,
as I am with you. Thank you.
And we're going to have to, we'll sit down and we'll dig into a couple of these other topics that are kind of come up today, and I'd like to know more on.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Sounds great. Well, thank you, and look forward to having you on my show. Thanks for having me.
And hey! Let's be careful out there. Far over the snow, what are those voices? They sing and they go. What are those voices? Look up for the mountain. Somebody better hide on through the hill, like a pack of angry wolves on the trail. Dead or alive, we are out to get you, dead or alive. And to get you done. If you're the one, better run away. Son, you are done, throw your gun away. Here come the Mounties to get the man